What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily Penelope and I'm a third year medical student at the University of Auckland. I'm here with my friend Tyla. She's also a third year medical student at the University of Auckland with me, and we're here to give you like tips and advice on how to survive your first year of medical school. In Auckland, that's second year. Yeah.
I'm Emily's friend, I'm Tyla, and if you tune into our last video together, you would know that I went through the biomed pathway, but before that me and Emily did a foundation course together, and then before that I was in high school.
And I went through the health science pathway to med. We have a whole list on my phone here of questions that you guys might have or that you already have given me about second year med school. So I guess they're in no particular order. So a lot of people ask about social life in med school because in first year social life's pretty hard. It's hard to have a social life. What would be your top tip for having a social life in first year med?
I think in order to like really have fun and have a good social life, I think it's important to be organized, because in second year you have so many little assignments that if you keep on top of that and you know exactly what you need to do, you'll have a lot of fun and have enough time to go out and have fun at all the steins and not have to like worry about wasting time socializing. But if you're really onto it with your studies, you can have heaps of fun.
So we have an event called Freshers. I actually didn't go to my Freshers because I was overseas, but Tyla went and she made quite a few friends there, right? Could you want to talk just a little bit about Freshers?
Yeah, so I was a bit nervous because obviously Emily wasn't there and we kind of were going into, like, we had other friends, but I think if you're going into Freshers without like your close mates, it kind of forces you to really get to know your team. Like you're all split up into different teams and you all dress up in like these funny outfits, so like you're all kind of in it together. And I made some like really good friends, and it's just like a day of just like fun activity, just breaking down those barriers and to really get to know your like cohorts and
smashing down the walls.
And like you really do. Like overall I really enjoyed Freshers. Like you spend the whole day getting to know all these people, and then you spend the night in a toga party, and you really just like, it's a really good opportunity just to really immerse yourself in med culture, I guess. And
then a week or two after Freshers, once you've kind of started your first week of med school, we have what's called O Week. And in med school, O Week's quite a big deal. There's usually 3 events in that week, and they're like one night after the other. There's a pub crawl, a quiz night, and a frat party. And I highly recommend personally going to those. You meet people, you meet the people you're studying with, and I think it's really good to do that at the start of the year. The more people you meet now, the more friends you'll have throughout the year to ask questions on, to study with. And even though they might not be your best friends straight away, it's just like nice to have friendly faces around campus. And it's really important to make friends in your cohort, or at least know people by name, because these are going to be the people you're studying with for like the next 5 years, and they will eventually be your colleagues as well. What other things can you do at med school to like make friends, I guess, and be social?
Med is actually really social. Like you might not think so because of the workload or like how intense it might be, but it's really social. Like they have heaps of opportunities for all types of like mingling with different people. So they have like sports exchanges if you're into all types of sports, med review if you're into acting and dancing, choreography and all that stuff. And they even have some like painting nights, like Bob Ross tutorial, like just heaps of different, I don't know, like things you can do that can be catered to your preferences or like your hobbies, that you can meet people through.
Were you quite social in second year?
Second year was probably like my most social year.
So when we were discussing filming this today, we were like, man, second year was super social. We went to heaps of events, we made heaps of friends, we did lots of things. I don't know, like there was just so much going on that we could do. It's super fun, and I think it's actually really important to have a balance between the academic study side of medical school and the social side, because you need to keep sane.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's also the med ball.
Oh,
That's really good to be able to meet people from like different year groups. There's lots of like clinical people at the ball.
Yeah.
That's a really fun event.
There was the cocktail party, which had everyone in the Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences, so like optom, pharmacy, and nursing people as well as med. So it was really cool. I met some cool optom students.
I was also going to say that it's really important if you come into med with friends from outside of medical school that you make an effort with those friends too. I've found it to be really nice to have, you know, med school, my friends at med school, all that social stuff we do together. But then I also have my friends outside of medical school who don't really care about medical school. They're just my friends for me. They like me for me, not because we're doing the same thing. I just think it's super important to keep all aspects of your life open. So I hang out with like my cousins, my family. I have friends outside of medical school, and I think it's really important to keep those doors open in your life and not close those off, because med school can become all consuming.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep all facets of your life open.
I have friends in other degrees or even not at uni doing jobs, and it's important to make time for those friends, because you don't want to.
They bring something to your life that's different than what all your uni friends bring to your life.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about the resources that are there for the students. There is NZMSA, the New Zealand Medical Students Association, and UMSA. Do you want to talk a little about UMSA and like the membership and stuff?
Yeah, so at the start of the year, or at freshers, you'll see the whole crew of UMSA like leaders or class reps, and they kind of give you like a little welcoming. You have an opportunity to kind of have a membership with UMSA. I'm not too sure about the price.
When we signed up, it was $185 for 5 years.
5 years,
yeah.
Right. So you get a little sticker for your ID card, and so that kind of gives you perks of, because there's so many social events, or not even just events, merch, like for the med school hoodies and all that, you get a discount, like at least $10 to $5 off compared to non-UMSA member, non-members. Yeah. I have a membership, and I've found it's like really helped out, because I went to a lot of events, so I kind of enjoyed having a bit of money off. UMSA has like multiple kind of categories of reps. So there's education rep, social reps, class reps, welfare reps,
year group reps.
Yeah, year group reps.
Māori, Manga Māori,
yeah.
Pacifica rep.
Yeah.
Like, there's a rep for almost everyone.
Everything.
They're working to get an LGBTQ rep at the moment.
Yeah, that would be cool. They kind of inform you or keep you up to date with kind of things going on that they are kind of in charge of. Like the social reps are in charge of all the social events that year, and so they'll kind of keep you posted on like what's coming up, and that's really cool. And like the education reps put up a drive of like all these notes that really help you for studying if you just want to see like what the go is and like what kind of depth you require. Some are really in-depth notes, but it's always a good backup to if you've missed a lecture or something. But and the welfare reps have really like wholesome events, like the Bob Ross painting and really like fun and chill events.
And I'll just talk a little bit, like, so there's NZMSA as well. So NZMSA and UMSA. UMSA stands for the Auckland University Medical Students Association, and NZMSA stands for the New Zealand Medical Students Association. Both of them advocate for students, promote student welfare, host really cool events, conferences, things like that. So it's like quite cool to get involved, I guess. And that's, you can do more research if you want to know about that. That's just the basic touchdown on, like, as a student who's there for you, promoting your welfare and advocating for you. Because it's important as students that you have a voice as well. And we found that to be really important during this time this year. Our education reps and class reps have been doing like incredible jobs at advocating for the students, listening to our voices and putting forward our worries to like the faculty. So they've actually been incredible. Big thumbs up, thanks to you guys. So we're just gonna we'll talk quickly about the overall structure of second year. So you have 7 module tests there on the body systems, as well as 2 overarching modules, clinical pharmacology and principles of medicine. And you also have professional and clinical skills, human anatomy labs, pathology labs or like micro labs, physiology labs, integrated lab activities, a first patient project, a project called HELD, which we'll talk on quickly later, and 3 progress tests. So it sounds really overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And at the start of the year, they give you like a list of all the assignments and tests and all your due dates for stuff, and it's long, like it's really long, and I found it really overwhelming. I was like, ugh. I'll put an image here of what it looks like the assignment assessment schedule.
Yeah.
It's hectic, but you just get through it, chunk by chunk. You just work through it, and it's fine. So what we're gonna do is break down the sections, the modules. So the first module we'll talk about is POM, Principles of Medicine. This one, I must say, is we had probably quite a different experience of POM. She came from biomed, I came from health sci. She had done a lot of the basic principles in biomed.
Yeah.
What papers would you say covered the basic principles of POM the best from biomed?
Can I look it up?
101, 106. It wasn't 106. Well, a little bit of 107, but
I think it was 106.
Yeah,
in
106.
The second semester.
she definitely was more prepared than I was. I had to do more study to understand the basics for POM than Tyler did.
Yeah, because it is quite like on a micro level, like really small, like cellular and all that type of stuff that you cover in biomed and the biosci papers. I found helpful.
I definitely had a couple of lectures in POM where I just sat there and I felt like the information was like whoosh,
Yeah.
whoosh, whoosh.
I think for all the stuff that you learn in first year, it's quite a basic knowledge, like just to kind of get you like the ball rolling with these types of concepts. And I think what Emily said, when you get into med, a lot of it seems quite clinical and a bit over your head, so you will be there in lecture and you'll be like, whoa, I don't even understand. But the more you learn, especially in POM, the more you learn about like all these pathways and all these other little things that they talk to you about, it all kind of clicks at the end. But I found having a bit of knowledge, the molecular level knowledge that you learn in biomed, helped me out a bit more.
I guess I'll just talk really quickly on POM. It's essentially like there's like a few concepts that they teach you that are like basic concepts for medicine, like inflammation, immunity, genetics, the basis of cancer. So these are really high yield in the exam as well. So flowcharts are your best friend. They might even get you to like draw a whole page flowchart on like the inflammation pathway or the cancer pathway, things like that. So they're key. In med school we have something called the portal, which I will put here while I'm talking. So in the portal we have clinical scenarios. So I'm going to show you clinical scenarios. This is how you access the clinical scenarios, and essentially POM uses a lot of these clinical scenarios to teach their topics and their concepts. So is a good way for you to study is to check out these clinical scenarios.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the first module you do. Like, so POM starts at the start, but you also have another module starting as well. So POM is a whole semester long. And then alongside POM you have like shorter modules. Musculoskeletal is your first module. It's very like heavy on anatomy. There's physiology as well. The physiology is more like straightforward than the anatomy.
So I agree, it's very heavy anatomy based, which I love because I just love anatomy. But the physiology is kind of a bit straightforward, just kind of like sarcomere, stuff like that. And just basic stuff that you would have learnt in first year.
I actually will show you some
the
things.
goods.
So, Grey's Anatomy, best friend. You definitely don't need this hard copy version. The ebook version of this is amazing, and you can use Apple F to find what you're looking for instead of like going to the index and like going through this whole book. But if you really like having paper, this is great. I also have, along with that, the Grey's Anatomy flashcards, which I actually do really like. They're done by Body System kind of, so it's really good.
Yeah.
I recommend like the hard copy of these to just use as a study tool. And then we have the Netter's Anatomy colouring book. I actually photocopied pages out of this so I didn't colour directly the book. I obviously started, I don't know if you can see that, started colouring in the book and then realised that I should probably photocopy it so I can do it more often. This was a really way of like passive learning for me, so I did this when I wanted a break from studying and I wanted to put like YouTube or Netflix on or something. I would literally do this at the same time, and it's just like slowly absorbs a lot slower when you're doing it watching other stuff, but it's like you're still using your time like efficiently.
Yeah.
Like even when you're watching YouTube and Netflix. So those were two really good things that I liked. Do you want to talk a little bit about complete anatomy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm like a really visual person like Emily, so I like those drawings, but Complete Anatomy, which is an app that you can put it on your laptop or your iPad, and it's really cool. You can load it up by body system, so just having all skeletal, all the muscles, all of the arteries and whatnot, and you can like move around and get really up close and little nooks and crannies, I guess, around the body that you can't really see externally, and you can, because you get tested on the pathways of the muscles and where does this artery lie within or passing, whatever. So I found it was really good to get really close up and actually see visually the pathways of these muscles or arteries. And yeah, there's like a free version, and I used to just kind of renew it a couple days before my PSTs, which we'll talk about later. Just to kind of get the visual learning rolling. But I highly recommend it, and I used to screenshot them in Mask to do with the nerves, because you have to learn basically all the nerves.
BRB.
But yeah, you basically have to learn all the nerves and arteries of basically upper limbs and lower limbs, and it was really good to just screenshot, and you can just look at the pathway.
Sorry for so rudely leaving, but before I really got into using my iPad properly, these were how I took notes. I would do, I don't know, you probably can't really see that well, but I'd like print out pictures, write notes, label stuff. So these were like my Musk notes. And these were all printed from the Grey's Anatomy online, like my ebook. I did this, I've moved to doing this like on my iPad now. But these were just really good ways. Plus there were slides, some notes, whatever. Yeah, that's that one. Anyways, so this was like my old way of doing stuff. I don't recommend this. This was very time consuming.
Yeah.
And I learned pretty quickly that is not effective. Don't do this. Don't waste paper. Use your laptop or a tablet. What this was indicating to you is that those ebooks are really great for Musk.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Whakaaro Pi?
Yeah. Whakaaro Pi, or MSLC, is up, I don't know what level it is. It's up in the Grafton campus, and it's really helpful. I found for Musk especially, they've got kind of little pods for different organ systems, and in the musculo pod they have like limbs, like upper and lower limbs, like hands and feet,
whole skeletons.
Yeah, whole skeletons. So it's really good to have like another visual aid. You can pull apart the different layers of the muscles, because we had to know the cross section, so you need to know which one's the most superficial and what ones lie underneath. So I did a lot of study in Whakaaro Pi, and they also had some
pathology, like real pathology. They're in like little glass.
Yeah, they've been
suspended in like jelly, kind of.
Yeah.
Like they're preserved.
Yeah,
It is super interesting, especially when you get into the other topics like digestive, looking at like colon, pathologies, things like that. Other notes we've got written down that you probably aren't that interested in, but like insertions and origins are not vital to learn, but help you understand primary and secondary actions of the muscles. Learn the cross sections. They're examined and they're really important. Physiology for the muscle system is fine.
Yeah.
Guest lectures are assessed, labs are assessed, and Yeah. We'll move on to digestive system. I personally liked the digestive system. That's the second system you study. So this is, at the time you start digestive, you're still doing POM.
Yeah.
So POM is like an overarching long module. Musc is 6 weeks. I think digestive is 4.
Yeah, it's a smaller module.
It was a smaller module.
Yeah, I think you just have to know that in med it's a different structure from first year. You don't have an exam week. So yeah, you have POM is the overarching, and you have that exam at the end of the semester, but you have multiple smaller module tests throughout the semester. You don't have an exam week anymore.
In second year, you do one paper for the whole year. It's called MBCHB 221. Yeah, 221. And you just get a grade overall for that like paper, but your paper consists of all these modules, all these assignments, all these different tests. So yeah, it is run really differently to first year where you did 4 papers a semester and you got a grade for each paper, and then those averaged out to be your overall grade. You pretty much learn the whole digestive crap, yeah, you learn that. You learn the whole digestive tract, including location of absorption and secretion of all sorts of different things, and it really is a mixture what you learn. We did like biochemistry, anatomy, we had a whole section on nutrition. I loved the nutrition side. I was like, man, I could be like a nutritionist, dietitian. Found it super interesting. You do pathology such as cancer, celiac. You learn about like different vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that it would be kind of handy for like day-to-day life, like. Yeah. Like,
I will never forget which vitamins are fat soluble. A, D, E, and K. Those are your fat soluble vitamins, and if you overdose, you can have vitamin toxicity.
Yeah. I don't remember that because I didn't like that area of
Yeah, that was my favourite of second year.
Yeah.
We'll move on. The next thing you start is RESP. You start this while you're still doing POM.
Yeah.
POM finishes halfway through this module. So you do like a few weeks of RESP, POM test, few weeks of RESP test. Do you have anything to say about RESP?
It's quite physiology heavy, which if you were like me and don't really enjoy physiology, you will have to study quite hard. But they have do they have the labs?
Yeah.
Which helped out a lot because you can just talk to these people that are they're like majoring in physiology. So they're kind of these big brain boxes around physiology, and you can just kind of quiz them on all these things that you might not know, which I found really helpful. But other than that, RESP was pretty okay.
Yeah, I found RESP okay. There's like quite a bit of physics behind RESP, but like once you understand it, it makes sense. Like you just need to like study till you understand it, and then once you understand it, it kind of like clicks. For me, that's how I felt with it anyways. The anatomies I found really easy for RESP. The teachers at University of Auckland who do RESP are great. Julian, amazing.
Love him.
The next module you start is, so RESP has the inter-semester break in the middle of it. So you do like 3 weeks before the break and like 2 or 3 weeks after. I can't really remember, something like that. So when you're halfway through RESP, you start a new module that is an overarching module, like the Principles of Medicine module, and that is
Clinical Pharmacology.
Clinical Pharmacology.
CP for sure.
CP.
It's quite a big and new topic,
yeah,
right? It's a lot of medications and knowing all of their kind of pathways and how they work and interact with other drugs. Very interesting and definitely clinically relevant for what we would be doing in the future. But they had all these drug names are just crazy, so it's important that you find the trends and like the families of drugs, or else it's really hard to memorize everything.
Yeah, for sure. So you do a therapeutics assignment, which is worth 20% of your clinical pharmacology grade, and it's essentially figuring out a dose calculation and writing a prescription. I think almost everyone got 100%.
Yeah,
like
it was pretty easy.
It's pretty straightforward. And then 80% is on your clinical pharmacology test towards the end of the year. So that's on the pharmacokinetic, pharmacodynamic model.
Yeah.
Drugs. Obviously it's on drugs, but I would say the most important drugs are the ones you learn in lectures. They give you this like
100
drugs you should know, but They don't test on it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. Okay, I don't want to say they don't test on it. They didn't test on it for us. They really only tested on the drugs they taught us in lectures.
Yeah, I don't see the point of studying what's not in the lectures.
Yeah. You learn about drug variability and drug interactions, as well as the regulation and development of drugs and prescription of drugs.
Yeah.
So that's it. You get the idea. It's super new, unless you did like a pharmacy paper in first year, because some people do that as their gen ed. That might help with CP. I don't actually know, to be honest. But like we said in our video in about first year, we don't recommend that paper as a gen ed because it is hard. From the friends I know that have done it, it was hard. So anyways, CP starts halfway through RESP. After RESP, you do Cardiovascular System.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about it? How did you find it?
I really liked it. I think I really liked the anatomy side. You just basically learn all the vessels kind of in the chest region. Well, I guess probably the whole abdomen and thoracic regions. Yeah. ECGs and a lot of other physiology content related to it was quite new for me, but very interesting. Just got to get your head wrapped around underlying concepts behind the ECGs, and then it'll make sense.
I really liked cardio. I love cardio anatomy. Physiology, it took a little bit longer to wrap my head around. I really liked learning about ECGs because that's like clinical.
Yeah.
And I recommend there's like ECGs Made Easy, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. Yeah. If it's not called that, here's the title. But it's a textbook I found really helpful, and it helped make it make sense.
Yeah.
You have to learn physiology, learn all the charts. They give you like the Wiggers diagram, as well as the Einthoven's triangle, things like that. And then you do some really cool labs that are a mixture of RESP and cardio. So there's the ECG and heart sounds lab, human dive reflex lab. That one was cool actually.
Yeah, that was interesting.
The pulses and circulation lab. And then you do an integrated laboratory activity, the chest pain ILA. So it's like working through a kind of a clinical scenario about chest pain. So your last module, this is all happening, remember, while clinical pharmacology is happening.
It's in the background. And it's important to not forget about it.
Yeah, do not forget about those overarching modules. It is easy to leave it to the end.
And people get so stressed because they're very content heavy.
Yeah.
Compared to the module tests, and you can't afford to push all those those lectures to the side because there's so much to do and you can't cram. Unfortunately, not like first year. Yeah. So genitourinary, I found it like quite an easy module. One of the easier modules. There is a lot of anatomy in terms of like the vessels, the nerves, things like that. Yeah. But there's a lot of overlap with med-sci, especially for like the kidney information. So I would say high yield topics for genitourinary would be things like nephrotic versus nephritic syndrome, acute versus chronic kidney disease. Do you have any that you think are high yield? Kind of like the physiology side of it, like potassium and sodium and water transportation through the tubules, and like what kind of drives these pathways. That's very important. Yeah,
as well as like acid and base disorders, electrolyte imbalances. I guess that's like the sodium potassium thing, and also the control of blood pressure, how the kidneys relate to that. I found totally fine.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of found it a bit of a breeze after cardio, because cardio is quite intense. Jinx. It was kind of like a chill, like it was still a bit hard. Like for me, I found the physiology still hard, but I thought it was more of a breeze to finish off the end of the year, and it's a very small module compared to the other ones. So
cool. So that's like the main modules you do. 7 main modules. We were so rudely interrupted by my battery dying. We're just moving on to like the other parts of the year, not the module tests and the modules. So you have human anatomy labs, PSTs, Pathology Labs, Physiology Labs, ILAs, first patient, held and progress tests.
As well as clinical skills examination.
Oh yeah, PCS1.
Yeah.
Should we talk about PCS1 quickly? Mm-hmm. Alright, so PCS1 is professional and clinical skills. It's a really good topic. It runs the whole year. Yeah. You aren't tested in any like tests or exams per se, but you are tested on assignments. So you have something called an SGA, which is a small group activity where you get together with like 12 other people and you discuss topics each week. So things like ethics, alcohol and drugs. I don't know, there's lots of topics.
Yeah, Māori health. Like health and well-being.
Yeah, health and well-being, mindfulness, things like that. I really enjoyed mine last year. I really enjoyed the people I did it with.
Yeah.
I had an overall, found that like a really key part of med school that helped me make friends as well. Like I'm like quite good friends with the people in my SGA.
Yeah.
There's like different realms in PCS. So there's like personal and professional skills.
Yeah. Communication.
Yeah. I'll list the 5. There's like realms. Here
there's
they are.
like an island.
Yeah, there's an island thing. They tell you about the island.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here's the realms of PCS.
Yeah.
But in terms of assessment, you have to do like a journal. You have to do a portfolio in year 2, not a full portfolio. You have to do a plan of your portfolio and do 2 pieces for your portfolio, a significant learning event and a book review. Yeah. If you watch I don't know if it'll be up when this is up, but if you watch my recent vlogs or upcoming vlogs, I don't know when I'm posting them, but if you watch them, you'll see me doing some work on portfolio pieces, because in year 3, you have a full portfolio due in October. Yeah. You do safe doctors journaling. You do 3 kind of like mini like reflective pieces. Yeah. You do an ethics essay on an ethics issue of your choosing.
You also have a 5-minute kind of history taking session. Like you get with an actor. You have multiple kind of opportunities to practice on your friends, and also they have actually like medical actors that you can interview and practice your your history taking skills, and you get it recorded and you can reflect back on how you interact with patients.
Well, you have to reflect back on.
Yeah, you have to, as part of the assignment.
Reflection. So that's essentially just like asking them about their medical history, about their presenting complaint, social factors, lifestyle factors, things like that. Yeah. That's pretty much PCS, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
You have clinical skills sessions throughout the year for each module. Yeah. So you have like 2 for masks. So you do, how it works, you have 2 for each module. And the first one is like you're learning the examinations, and then the second one's with actors. Yeah, you're doing the examinations with actors. So you have 2 for each module. Those are good fun. You do them with your SGA groups.
Yeah, that's really cool. And also a really good like learning experience, and they have a lot of good feedback. Like those actors have been doing it for a long time, so they've got a lot of feedback, which is really helpful. Yeah.
So the next thing we'll jump into is the Human Anatomy Labs. So warning alert, you do your first Human Anatomy Lab on the last day of your first week of medical school. It can be confronting, overwhelming, scary, nerve-wracking. I don't know. How would you explain it? Your very first one. So first, before Tyla launches in, if you didn't know what a human anatomy lab is, it is the dissection of human cadavers. So people who donate their body to the medical school for students to learn. It is an amazing program. And we don't take it for granted. Like, we are so incredibly lucky to have a program like this and have people in the community who, after they die, would like to donate their bodies for people like Tyla and me to learn on. So your first one is in your first week of medical school, so be prepared for that.
Within the first week, you have a whakanoa, which you actually get to go into the room, and the bodies are covered, but you are just kind of getting used to the space that you'll be dissecting in. So it's not like you just get chucked into this lab and there's the bodies. You kind of go in there, have a karakia, and kind of get to grips with the lab environment. And then on the last day of your first week, you go in and you do your first dissection.
A couple of things about those labs is don't take them for granted. This is an extremely fortunate opportunity you have to learn. Yeah. I personally didn't love the labs, and I felt guilty for not loving the labs, but it's okay because it's not for everyone. Yeah. But I still went, and I respected that the cadaver I had given up, her body for science, And I did learn from my cadaver, as well as they have demonstration cadavers at the front, which are like pre-dissected for you to go and look at, as well as they have models from Whakaaro Pai, the Medical Science Learning Centre, there to look at as well. So learn as much as you can. Don't feel the need to get involved with a dissection if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But definitely do go, because it's definitely a humbling experience and a great learning experience.
So yeah, being able to do it, because we'll talk about other resources that you can use for PSTs, but it is good to see cadavers in real life, because it will help with PSTs.
So PSTs, just briefly, we will go into it later, but they're a practical skills test, and you have to identify landmarks in these cadavers.
Yeah.
At the end of each human anatomy lab, you have some radiology. They go through essentially pathology on the radiology of the body systems you're studying at that time. You don't need to stay for radiology. I didn't say that didn't come from me, but they put the slides up online for radiology, and they test directly from the slides in the PSTs, so it's super easy to do radiology without staying for that extra 20 minutes, half an hour at the end.
I still stay, but
Tyla is a good student.
But yeah, well, I was busy dissecting, so I was there to the end, so I kind of hung around for that.
Alright, well, we might as well get into PSTs then. PSTs are the practical skills tests. You have one for each body system. So you have a mask, a Dige, Resp and Cardio are one together, and a GU. And in those PSTs, you are tested on the histology, like the micro slides, radiology, and anatomy, physiology, gross anatomy.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the structure of the tests, how they run a little bit?
Yeah, so you'll rock up for your PST, and you start off with micro and radiology. So basically it's on a computer, and you have like a PowerPoint slide that you can just flick through at your own speed and write down the answers. Really easy to get those marks, because gross anatomy is probably the hardest part. So once you get that done, you go into Whakaaro Pai, and you go through the back entrance into the hall, and one by one you get put in. There's a buzzer, there's like the iconic buzzer sound. It goes off every 40 seconds, I think. Basically you go all around in like little zigzags to the little stations in the Howell lab, and they involve like the full cadavers, or maybe they have kind of cross sections of bodies, or even just an organ, and you kind of go around, and they'll have a flag or a bit of yarn that says like, identify this, or what is the innervation of this, or stuff like that. And you have 40 seconds to write down your answer, and you move along, and it goes very fast, but it tests how well you are able to quickly and effectively identify anatomy. So that's basically it. As a new concept, it's completely different from what you're used to, but once you get the first one down and you kind of get a feel of it, it's fine.
They call it like the rat maze or the rat race, something like that. It's essentially like quick recall of landmarks in the body. They're on the cadavers that you do the dissection of. And 40 seconds per station for the gross anatomy, and like Tyla said, there's a set amount of time for answering questions on computers beforehand. I think it's 20 minutes. And you just work through some radiology questions, some histology questions. It's, if you look up gross anatomy tests on YouTube, they probably have videos on how to study for them, what they're like, things like that. I think they're all pretty similar around med schools around the world. Next we'll move on to the labs. So there's pathology, micro labs, and physiology labs. Pathology labs, it's essentially just going along looking at things through a microscope. I like to screenshot. We have a program called VS Slide or V Slide, where the slides are loaded onto the computer, and you can zoom in, look all around the histology slides. I like to screenshot those, email them to myself, and upload that into a sheet for studying for the PSTs, because they take it directly off V Slide essentially. And I really like histology. I like looking through the microscope. I like trying to identify little pathologies within the cellular level that you do in the pathology labs. Physiology labs, some of them are really fun, some of them are not.
Yeah, some of them are a bit time consuming, but in saying that, if you put effort in, it's really easy to get
and you get
good marks.
You do get marked for your physiology labs. You have to complete a worksheet, and I always stayed behind. Like, you can leave the lab early if you finish and complete your worksheet at home because it's due the end of the next day.
Yeah.
But I would let's say your labs go to 5 or 5:30, but you finished at 4:30.
Yeah.
I would stay from 4:30 till 5:30 and ask the lab techs questions because they're really helpful, and I would finish my worksheet while I was in the lab, and I highly recommend doing it like that, even if it means staying for that extra amount of time, because it's a lot easier when there's someone helping you answer the questions than doing it alone at home.
Yeah, and actually asking them questions rather than asking Google, and you might get the wrong answer, whereas they literally know what you're studying.
And it also helps you to understand the concepts, I guess, and they are tested. The labs are tested. Like Marie Ward.
Oh, yes.
Her labs popped up in our mask test, or was it cardio? Her labs popped up in a couple of our tests, and we all what the heck? So some of those labs are examinable. ILAs, integrated lab activities, that's just clinical scenarios that you have to work through and answer questions on, essentially, online. First patient project.
Throughout your house, so you have HOW labs for all the modules. At the end of every module, you have pathologists come through, and they help you look. You can ask them, can you confirm if this is a cancer or whatever? And so you kind of keep an eye out throughout the year of all your dissections, of all the pathologies that your patient may have died of, or comorbidities. And towards the end of the year, you kind of pick an overall idea or something to base your cause of death, or or was it just...
It's more the first patient project is essentially you're discussing all the body systems of your cadaver and what you suspect was their cause of death. You're given their cause of death, but now that you've done the full dissection, you can determine what their true cause of death was, and then you need to talk about the pathology that causes death. So I think for my patient we chose cardiac arrhythmia or heart something. Heart, congenital heart. I can't remember, but we had a cardio. We decided you pick a body system that was the main cause of death. Ours was cardiovascular, within the cardiovascular system with the heart. So we talked about that. You actually take pictures of your cadaver throughout the year, not you personally, Nick, the photographer. If you see pathology in your cadaver, he comes over, takes a picture, and at the end of the year, you're given all these pictures to essentially build a presentation about your patient, and you also learn about them at the end of the year. So you know nothing about them. And at the end of the year, you learn their careers, their family. That was that was really cool. Some people had people's cadavers did amazing things.
It was so cool. After you have your presentation, you say this is what we think, then Peter actually gets up and gives you a little spiel of everything, and it's so cool. It's so lovely to kind of put the person's life into perspective.
So that's the first patient project. Next, we're going to talk about HOW. That is the Human Early Life Development Research Program. And not really research program. Well, it is research program.
Or data collection.
So you get given a random partner in your year at medical school, and you are assigned a newborn baby for 2 years, and you need to visit every 2 to 3 months and essentially fill out all these questionnaires, and you upload that into a HOW database, and towards the end you do an essay about development, things like that. That got cancelled this year because of the coronavirus, but we did that for last year and the start of this year, and it was it was the first time I felt, I don't even know how to explain it. You had to present yourself like a professional.
You're representing the uni, and you have to kind of come across well, and it was a fun opportunity.
So.
And it's good to you get to put into practice your not patient, your interaction skills, and build rapport with these people, and it's really cool to do.
It was awesome. So that's HOW. The last thing I want to talk about for assessments and things is the progress tests. So you do 3 progress tests a year. They are what they say they are, progress tests. They follow your progress alongside your cohort for your 5 years of medical school.
Yeah.
And you sit on a bell curve compared to your cohort. And it's just saying if you are progressing with your cohort, if you're falling behind compared to your cohort, how you're doing. It's 125 questions. There's 6 answers per question, 5 answers and 1 I don't know. And it's set at a house officer level, so for like a graduate.
Yeah, a new graduate.
And it's supposed to be hard, guys. Like my first one, I was like, I don't know anything. You want to talk about how it's marked?
It's really important to kind of be a bit strategic with your answering because, yeah, as Emily said, there's five answers and one I don't know. So if you put I don't know or leave it blank, you don't get any marks for that question. If you get it right, it's 1 mark, and if you get it wrong, it's negative 0.5.
0.25.
0.25. Oh, that's good. So it's important that you realise what you do and don't know, because it's Roger says that there have been people that have got negative results because the more you get wrong, the more you get taken off your overall mark. And yeah, I think for year 2s and year 3s, we're not really expected to know much, but it's important to be strategic and don't try to guess too much unless you kind of have an idea. That's me personally.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll take off your points.
Yeah. So like for the statistics wise, if you don't know the answer at all and you think it could be any of the 5 answers, if you guess, the chance of you getting 0 is the same as if you put I don't know, 0.
Yeah.
But if you can eliminate 1 answer, then you're more likely to get the point than if you answer I don't know, obviously. My strategy in second year was divide the test into 3 sections. So 125 divided by 3 was approximately like 40, 42, 43 questions. The first 40 questions I answered every single question. No, I don't knows. The second question, it was like if I could narrow down the answer to 3 or 2 answers, I would pick an answer. And then the last section, I only answered it if I 100% knew it or like 90% knew it, and the rest I put I don't know.
Yeah.
And I found that the best strategy for me was that if I could narrow it down to 2 answers, then I was more likely to get it right. So that worked well for me. Yeah. But you need to try your own strategies. If you look at videos on YouTube on how they ask USMLE questions, you'll find that progress test questions are asked quite in the same way. So you can have primary questions, secondary questions, tertiary questions. So things like, what is this person's diagnosis? They give you a scenario, what's the diagnosis? That's a primary question. If they give you a clinical scenario and then say, what is the treatment for this? That would be a secondary question, because you need to determine what their diagnosis is and then what their treatment would be. And then there's like tertiary questions which ask further different questions. So they might give you the clinical scenario and then ask you which like pathogen has caused their diagnosis, that sort of thing. And what, yeah. So just know your limits with that, I guess. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
And that's all your assessments for second year.
Yeah.
Done and dusted. Sorry that was really long, but if you were curious to know how it's all run, that's how it's done. Next, we're just going to talk quickly on Hauora Māori. So Hauora Māori is a module across, I guess, your whole of medical school.
Yeah.
And it's just learning about the Indigenous population of New Zealand and their health inequities and what we can do as health professionals to combat these inequities. You spend a week in second year doing something called the Māori Health Intensive Week, where you learn all about these inequities and you learn about colonisation, te tiriti o Waitangi, things like that. It's a super intense week, but it's an amazing week to really educate people on why we have these health inequities within our Indigenous population in New Zealand and what we need to do going forward to combat it, essentially. Mm-hmm. Would you have anything to say about Māori Health Intensive Week?
I just think it's a really good eye-opening course for everyone who's not kind of aware of the inequities that Māori face. But I think it's important to to actually make an effort during this week. You're working in a team and you end up having to do a presentation and you want to really take something away from the whole week. I really enjoyed it. It was a good week.
Yeah. I enjoyed it so much. I came back in third year as a tuakana for a group at MHI. Great opportunity to earn some money, great opportunity to share knowledge about Māori health and Indigenous health in New Zealand and teach others the importance of reducing inequities amongst population.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go do the stuff that I know more people have questions about. Things like money. How do you survive in medical school? Yeah. What do you do? How do you do it? How do you go to all these social events and drink and dress nice if you don't have any money? So, the question everyone has is, can you have a job while you're at medical school? What are your thoughts?
Yes, you can. Yeah, definitely. I would recommend it because you need to have a break from just study and going to uni. Yeah, I highly recommend having a job in the weekends and depending on how your timetable, you can have it throughout the week. But a good shift job would give a student a decent amount of money on top of the allowance or the living costs or whatever that you get from StudyLink.
Okay, so what job did you have during second year?
I had a babysitting job that I did maybe on Saturday and Sunday, a couple hours on each day, and then within the holidays. But yeah, my job was pretty low maintenance, not really much effort.
And for me, in second year, I worked as a tutor in both semesters for the university. So I was tutoring Māori and Pacific students in Chemistry 110, which is the first year paper, and then in the second semester I was tutoring MedSci 142. So that was really great. And then I was also babysitting alongside. I had joined a couple of babysitting companies, so the Babysitters Club and Juggle Street were my two main sources of income, and they worked really well for me, and I managed to live perfectly fine with those two jobs. We also have student allowance and student living costs if you are a New Zealand student, which the government will loan you money each week essentially to survive. There are also lots of scholarships you can apply for and hardship funds if you're really struggling at the university. So yeah, you can make it work. I highly recommend having a job. I think, like Tyla said, it is a way to take your mind off of medicine, and it is also great to boost your CV a little bit, I think, to show that you're not just med school. Yeah. You are a multifaceted, fine young woman with lots of talents. Yes. And you just have to manage your time. So I would say no more. This year I worked a lot. Some weeks I worked up to 20 hours. I wouldn't recommend that. I was hustling hard because I was supposed to travel so much. But I would recommend up to 10 hours, I would say, a week. I would say one kind of 6 to 10 hour shift of a job equivalent is really doable and easy to fit into the timetable. Yeah. I also want to talk about one thing really briefly that I'm not going to go into depth about. If you're interested in knowing more about it, comment below and I can do a whole separate video. But I did a summer research studentship which paid a $6,000 stipend tax-free, and I also got to increase my capabilities over summer in research. Anyways, I did a summer research studentship and I did it in obstetrics and gynecology education, and I had a really great time. It was qualitative research and I'm actually continuing to do that this summer. I'm continuing on my last research to hopefully publish a paper in the research. So that's given me a really great grounding in research, what it's like, if I like it, if I don't, and money for the summer, which I've saved to put towards this year, and travel as well. So that's another way to earn money. Budgeting. Really briefly, what do you budget?
Not really. I found a cool budgeting app.
I'll link it below.
And it's cool to break down and to just see kind of what I've been spending my money on. I just think you should just be aware of how much is coming in, how much is going out, and if you need to cut down. I got the student Spotify account that cuts down your money. I cut down my Apple subscription, and then also my Netflix as well. Like, you just got to think of all these other extra costs that you could be like a bit money wise.
There's also like a student card which you can get. I think it costs $20, and that gives you heaps of discounts across lots of shops and brands and different like activities and things around the city.
Yeah.
I also recommend, if you're a Kiwi, putting money into your Kiwi Saver, and then the government will match you 50 cents for the dollar up to $1,042 a year. There'll be a lot of videos out there on Kiwi Saver. Go and watch those. I'm not going to talk about it here, but there are lots of ways to save money. I also invest on Sharesies, and there are apps you can use for budgeting as well, but I think the Google spreadsheet that Tyla uses is quite good, and that'll be linked down below. She will share the link with me, and I'll share it with you, and you guys will get all of her budgeting wisdom.
Also recommend signing up for uni days. You get heaps of like discounts off like clothing stores like Glassons, Cotton On, and just really good to keep your wardrobe up to date on a budget.
I also recommend making sure the bank account you're signed up with has no fees and is a student account.
Yes.
Because you do not want to be paying like interest or overdraft fees or fees in general, or monthly fees, yearly fees for if you're a student. Yeah. So most bank accounts at banks will have a 0 fees, 0 interest student account to sign up for. So don't be paying fees for your bank.
Yeah, I recommend, we're both with ANZ, and they've got you can get up to $2,000 overdraft depending on your income, and which is like interest free. That really helps out a lot if you're in a bind and you need extra money and you don't have any way to pay it off. But I wouldn't recommend going into debt, but it's just an option.
We've got some study tips. I would say make it like a timeline each week, what you want to achieve each week, and I highly recommend studying at the library. It's quiet, everyone's studying, so it kind of like makes you study. And you also like kind of meet people at the library, like, oh my god, are you studying that too? Oh my god, I'm studying that. You could have a little quiet discussion in the library, like, oh my goodness, are you studying that? Oh my goodness, are you studying that? Anyways,
although there's heaps of people that talk really loudly.
Yes, there are also a lot of people that talk really loud in the library, but the library's a great place to be social, as well as meet people, as well as study. I really like studying in the library. We also have information commons, which is quite a good place to study. As you know, a lot of us have been studying at home this year. I don't love that as much, but I've learned to make do. This is now my desk. Like where we're sitting now is where I study because it's really nice and light. It's airy. You just have to do what works for you. What would you say about like keeping on top of things? How did you keep on top of things?
For me, I find it really helpful, especially and this year in lockdown too, just writing out a whole list of like what you need to tick off and having like the due dates and everything. So you just have like an overall idea of what you need to be doing, so there's no hidden like, oh, I need to finish this assignment.
You can import the uni calendar onto your phone.
Oh yes.
So I have all of my classes and things come up on my phone. The only thing with that is if they change it, it doesn't automatically update on your phone. So you need to do that yourself. But having that on your phone, and at the start of the year putting all your due dates on your phone with little alerts, like one week before, is really helpful. That's enough for like some general studying tips. Just keep on top of it, keep moving, you'll get there in the end. You won't die. No. You're a survivor. You will survive. Textbooks. Don't buy the textbooks. You will get given a link from the education reps, beautiful education reps, with a link to all the ebooks for free of the textbooks you need. So unless you are a die-hard paper fan, you don't need the textbooks. Like I said, Grey's Anatomy, flip through it a few times, use my ebook and the Apple Command F function a lot more. Everything you need to pass the year, you're given. It's in your course guide. It's in the lecture slides. It's what they say in lectures. You know, it's in the readings they give you. It's all there. You don't need to go to Google to find information.
Yeah, I'd agree. Everything you possibly need to know is in there. You don't really need to go too in depth and like textbooks and all that stuff. But I found I still might have had to look up a few things if I didn't quite understand or needed some extra like I don't know, a concept to make me understand what I was learning. But other than that, a lot of people probably went too in depth in certain topics. I think just straight lecture notes, learning objectives, that's all you need to know.
And I had a question on my last video about how do you pass med school? How do you pass? So, you don't need to get A+ in medical school. They're actually fighting for it to become a pass-fail course, but the university requires a lettered grade, a number grade. So that's why some things you do are, A+, A-, etc. Some things you do are distinction, pass, fail. Some things you do are just pass, fail.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of graded differently. You need to look at each assignment individually and look at their marking rubric to see how it's marked.
Yeah.
You only need to get C's to get the degree, but in saying that, if you want to do research in the summer, you need at least a B+ average, and if you want to do well at the progress tests, the C isn't going to get you in that satisfactory range along with all your colleagues for the progress test. You might get borderline down the bottom of that bell curve. So you do want to do the work, but you don't need to be a straight A student anymore. You do need to be a straight A student in first year, but you don't need to be a straight A student in second year. You just need to pass.
Yeah.
And even if you fail some components, they have summer tests.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what percentage you need?
I think you can fail up to 20%. So different tests or labs or whatever are weighted differently. So you need to look at that. So I think you can fail up to 1 or 2 module tests, but you do have to do a remedial test in the summer.
You just need to pass to progress. Pass every module and you will progress. If you fail a couple of modules, then you do a remedial test in summer, and if you pass those, you progress. If you don't pass those, you will probably have to resit some components of year 2. The next year kind of repeat, and you get up to 2 repeats, so you get 3 chances at the year. Progress tests, they are examined or graded as unsatisfactory, borderline, satisfactory, excellent, and you want to sit within that satisfactory range for at least your last 2 tests of the year. If you go satisfactory, satisfactory, doubtful, satisfactory, satisfactory, doubtful in your next year, you will have a doubtful overall and you may not progress. If you finish with satisfactory, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, satisfactory, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, you will not progress into the next year. And that's mostly from 3rd year on. 2nd year doesn't really matter, but you do progress tests through all of medical school, and you need to kind of be going on the up every year rather than the down every year. They want to see you progressing with the cohort rather than falling away from the cohort.
Yeah, I don't think you can fail. Can you fail progress tests in year 2?
No, you can't fail the year on progress tests in 2nd year. They are just formative. The first one's formative. The next ones are worth some %, but you can't fail the year on progress tests.
Whereas you can.
You can in 3rd year.
Yeah.
And on all the other years, they're a lot more important.
Yeah.
And I guess just some general tips. I'm just checking that we've covered most of the stuff. My first tip is don't feel the need to compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
They've chosen you to get into med school because they want you. They want your qualities that you bring, and that's what they wanted. They don't want you to change to become like everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say it, but a lot of the students in med school are kind of like type A personality. You're kind of type A. Tyla is incredible at studying, incredible at timetabling. I'm a little bit the opposite. I just kind of do stuff. I just do it, but I don't really have...
But she's just very naturally smart, that's why.
I'm not as good as being organised like Tyla. I just kind of do stuff and then it somehow gets done.
Yeah.
But it gets done because I'm still aware of what's happening around me. But I also don't strive to be an A student. I like getting A's. I'm happy when I get an A. But I don't strive to get it. And I just in first year I strived to get that B+ average because I wanted to do research.
Yeah.
That's what my goal was. I achieved that and I'm super happy with that. And yeah, you don't need a A+. Obviously there's 2 prizes or 3 prizes for like the top students each year.
Yeah.
I don't aim for that because I actually want to have a life.
Yeah. And I think it's also important that you don't want to take the fun out of what you're learning, because I feel like if you're really hundies into studying, you're just going to get fed up with that. And with medicine, you have to keep you absorbing all this information, and you don't want to take the fun out of it, or else it's not going to be a long degree.
So be yourself, be social, don't compare yourself to others. And I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. Just like the last thing, we all feel it.
Yeah.
I felt super inadequate when I entered med school. I felt like, how I'm the dumbest person here. Everyone here is so intelligent. Everyone here got into med school like, wow, like, what am I doing here? And then I realized, like, they chose me. Like, the medical school chose me based on my qualities. It's okay.
Yeah.
And imposter syndrome, it leaves the more, it goes away slowly. Like, I feel less of an imposter now than I did in second year.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely still feel like, wow, I'm in medical school, what am I doing here? But it's definitely not as bad. And I think one way I combated imposter syndrome was being social, making friends, and realizing that a lot of people feel the same as you. And you can connect over that and feel like, wow, I'm not alone in this. So do you have any last tips? Like, what would any last tips we haven't covered?
Well, just touching back on, like, you don't have to get straight A's or whatever, you just have to pass. But for me, I really think you should still have an expectation for yourself. Like, I don't want to just scrape through, but I don't need to get A+. So just having that expectation for you and not comparing yourself to other people will help.
Like, set a goal for yourself. Like I said, my goal was a B+, because I wanted to do research. Like, maybe a B minus. Set a goal and just say, I really want to try and achieve this. And I do want to say, it's your module tests are the hardest place to get grades, to get those marks. It's easier to get marks in your assignments, your labs, your PSTs, things like that. So if you don't do too well in the module test, don't worry, because you'll likely pick up those points somewhere else.
I agree. It's very good to have those lab marks to just top up your GPA.
Yeah, and med school's fun, guys.
It is.
I found it social, it's fun, it's exciting. The things you learn sometimes feel really irrelevant, but other times you're like, wow, this is so relevant, so clinical. And then you realize, like, one day I'm going to be a clinical health professional. People are going to trust me in their most vulnerable moments. I think a lot of growth happens in medical school. A lot of stress as well. It is stressful. My hair has gotten so thin these past 2 years. I mean, I've had other stresses outside of med school, but my hair has thinned, guys. So don't go in expecting it to be easy, because it is not easy, is it?
I think there's a misconception in first year. It's like, once you're in med, you're in. It's like, no, you still kind of have to work hard. Just not.
It's so hard. Everyone says once you're in, it's so chill, you just chill out.
No.
That's a lie, guys. It's harder than first year, but a different sort of pressure. A less competitive pressure, but it's just more like, wow, I need to pass. Like, I need to do this. And that takes a lot of hard work and dedication. And if you're out there watching this video and you've got to this point, you obviously care a lot about becoming a future healthcare professional. And if you are this dedicated to watching this long ass video, if you're as dedicated to this video as you are to going out and becoming a doctor, you are going to make it, because
you can do it.
You can do it. We believe in you. And we're going to finish off the video here, I guess. Any last words?
No.
Be yourself. Study hard, have fun, be social, don't compare yourself to others, and remember, you don't need to be an A-type, straight A student to be a good healthcare professional.
That's right.
If you were here because you wanted to know about UK and MMIs, there's a video on MMIs coming later, so stay tuned for that, or that might already be out before this one, probably before this one. And again, if you've got questions that we didn't answer, our Instagrams will be linked in the description box. So hit us up, DM us, or comment on this video. We will get back to you. And yeah, good. If you've already gotten into med school, well done, you guys.
Congrats.
You've gotten over the hardest hurdle of them all.
Yeah.
If you are aspiring to be a med school student, I wish you well. Really, I do. It's not an easy decision. You've made one of the hardest decisions in your life already, and you've got a mountain ahead of you to climb, but I believe in you. You can do it. If you're here, you can do it. Like I said, any questions, hit us up.
Yes.
And we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Blooper. Anyways.
Oh, can I start that again?
Yep.
Okay.
Is it on? Is it recording?
Hello.
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 Look.
Bye.
Should be a Coke advertisement. Right, so don't look at our picture, look at the thing. Alright.
Cut that bit out.
You are being too noisy for the video.
For the vlog.
Things over here. Oh my god, just adjusting my bra. I wore the wrong bra today. Honestly, she's being so noisy. Can you not?
Bloopers. Alright.
So,
What were we saying? Oh yeah.
sorry for the interruption.
And I really liked it.
Pause. I'm gonna
Get the fly.
pause.
Stupid fly.
We have a fly. Where did it go?
There.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Phone call.
I'll see you later.